Welcome to Truckee Talks. As you can tell by my goofy hat and our goofy set, it is time once again for our annual holiday show. And with me today, I'd like to introduce somebody that you've actually already seen on the show, but this is a formal introduction. Ted Owens, my co-host. Ted, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Maya. And I'm only wearing the hat because she made me do it.
He did. You're very gracious, and I really appreciate that. You know, Ted, this is our annual holiday show, and we always talk about different ways that people can help support the community and do things that make a difference to make other people happy for Christmas. But I wanted to start the show by talking a little bit about what your holidays were like when you were growing up. What was Christmas like in your house?
Well, let me tell you, Maya. Actually, I have two different kinds of memories. You know, we have, your adult memories, how my family celebrated Christmas, and then when I was a child. And we had the very traditional one gift the night before, and put the cookies and milk out for Santa Claus, and come out and celebrate Christmas the next morning.
Now, when you got up the next morning, were there some cookies and milk missing?
No, but no, that's kind of yeah, it was always gone and left. And for me, it was a lot like a famous person had been there. You know, you look at the plate and the crumbs and the empty milk glass, and for about an 8-year-old or so, it justified he was really here. And so it was a lot of fun. How about in your house?
Well, I grew up in a mixed house, and I always thought up to a certain age that it was perfectly natural to have the Hanukkah menorah and the Christmas tree. We had both. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that not every family does that. I thought it was sort of a traditional holiday thing. So I sort of co-opted my friend Ruth's logo, or if you will, your holiday motto, which is instead of having a Christmas tree, I have the Hanukkah bush. And that sort of is the melding of the two holidays for me. But it was very much the same for me. We would have one present that we would open the night before, and that would be something we would wear to the annual holiday party we would go to. And then my sister and I would get up in the morning and rip open all of our stocking stuffers, but we had to wait until my father had read every single word of the entire newspaper before we would actually open our Christmas presents that day.
Well, that sounds reasonable.
That's why you're not a dad.
Yeah, probably never will be. Now, tell me, did it change when you have brothers and sisters, or a sister?
I have one sister.
Did it change when you got older? Did you celebrate it any differently as adults, as a family?
Well, we stopped leaving out the cookies and milk. We suspected that maybe it wasn't Santa after all eating them, but it might have even been Mom or Dad.
Most definitely. Our family changed. When my sister and I were older, we started celebrating Christmas on Christmas Eve, a little bit non-traditional. Have a gift before Christmas, huge dinner, good food, good drink, and then we would one by one open our gifts on Christmas Eve, and sleep in on Christmas Day, and then feast again later that afternoon. So that's always been a great deal of fun as well.
Well, I always felt that we were especially privileged because Hanukkah, although it is not certainly recognized as the holiest of the Jewish holidays, one gift is traditionally given for each of the 8 nights of Hanukkah. And you always got 8 presents, and I thought, well, Hanukkah's a way better deal than Christmas. I'd rather celebrate Hanukkah any day.
8, so what, you just checked them off as you got them,
yeah,
so you knew when
exactly.
it was time to finish? No.
Well, Ted, we've got a few different guests lined up for today's show, and we're going to be talking about different ways that people can participate in the community this year by helping out families that may need some help.
That's right, and we'll be doing this in several different segments.
That's right.
So it's time to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Yeah, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about Truckee's own Community Christmas, and on this segment of the show, it's my great pleasure to introduce Melinda Bauman. Melinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Melinda, there are many instances in our town where it is gratifying and somewhat miraculous that people take personal tragedies, deep personal tragedies, and turn them into something that's productive for the entire community. that's certainly the case in your story. And if you could tell us a little bit about what Helping Hand is and how it got started.
Okay. Actually, it got started in December of 1996. There was a boating accident that took my husband's life, Steve Bauman and Chad Barnett. They were both longtime residents of Truckee, both very active in our community. And as a result of this, a lot of friends and family members decided that they wanted to have a softball tournament to help benefit the children and I, because we were in financial dire straits at that time. And so we started the Old Buddies first annual Sing and Swing. It was a softball tournament and a concert and silent auction raffle. The proceeds helped the children and I. And then after the second year, we decided that we wanted to continue this because we had a lot of fun. There was a lot of good people in the community, and it really was a very heartwarming feeling. So we decided what was the best way to do it, and would be to turn it over and give the money back, anything we raised, to the community and people that were in need like we were.
Now, Melinda, you found yourself in an interesting position when your husband passed away, of being sort of an in-betweener, if you will, not having enough of your own financial resources to be able to continue on, and yet not being quite poor enough to be able to qualify for some of the other aid programs.
That's true, and that's where they started the first annual Buddy Sing and Swing. Was there's so many people in our community that fall into a crack, and you don't make enough money or you make too much money, and basically it's to help people in our community that are permanent residents that don't get aid from insurance companies, or they can't get aid from the county or the state, and it's to basically help it as far as the emergency. The first thing that happens, most people, is how am I going to pay my house payment? You know, what's going to happen here and there? We met with many different leaders from the community, from churches and service groups, and found out this was a need that people really had, an emergency need right away. And fundraisers and everything that we've had in our community have been great, but it takes time.
Yes.
And that time can take months and months, and we are here to help right away.
So who might be eligible for this? How do
basically
people find out?
we're just starting. We're in our little baby steps, but we've managed to start. We made quite a good, I wouldn't say a great profit, but we met our goal. And we really wanted to do this, and we were able to grant one family some money this year to help them. There was an accident, and the family was basically going to lose their home. They were in the middle of restoring it and having to have some things fixed before they could move back in. Accident happened, there was no money to pay for the rest of it, so we were able to help them out. And that's basically what we're there for, to help anybody in the community who's a permanent resident who cannot get financial aid from any other source. And pretty much that just falls in the crack.
And that's a big umbrella.
It can be a family, it can be a single person, yes. Like I said, we're just starting, but there's a great need out there, and there's so many other community services that help in different areas, but this is one area that hasn't been touched.
Sure, I think there's so many people in our community that seem to be making it, but in fact are living hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. And should something happen, where are the resources? You also mentioned to me before we came on camera that people can contact you through the Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation.
Right. What we did is, when we decided to do this, nobody really had the expertise of becoming our own foundation organization. We wanted to keep our work focused directly on the fundraiser and making the money and getting people to know about it. So we asked the Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation for their help, and we bypassed personally through them. If anybody wants to make a tax donation at the end of this year, they can, and you make checks out to Helping Hand, and it's P.O. Box 366, Truckee, California, and it's attention Lisa Doby, and that's through the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
And some of our viewers may remember that we had Lisa Doby and our Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation on this show a while ago and talked about some of the benefits if you've got some investment money that you're looking to find a place for, a home for. Certainly the Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation is one place to do it, and that's a way to give to Helping Hand. Yeah,
basically with Helping Hands, I think our whole goal basically is to help anybody in the community. You never know when something might strike, and it's to help not only yourself, but your neighbors. And it's pretty much, I think, an insurance policy. It's an investment in our town's future. We've had so many tragedies this last year, and it does take time to have these fundraisers. And if there's that emergency fund, if people need it and they can get to it right away, I think it benefits everybody.
Well, and it would be nice, too, for these people to have one place to go to. There are so many different organizations in this town that have fundraisers and drives, and they're all worthy, and they're all
they're very worthy.
And how do you know who to go to? And that's one of the reasons why the Community Foundation, I think, is such a great idea, because it can become an umbrella organization for all of these entities.
Oh, I agree. And that's one thing that we started, is we met with a lot of different service organizations, churches. We've met with the county and family services, and everybody has pretty much stated that, you know, everybody needs a sheet or a call list of people and organizations to go to, and if we can't help them in our organization, we'd be more than happy to give them phone numbers of other people that we think that we can help.
Yeah, so in the context, again, of our community spirit of giving, there may be those that are just, as you say, falling through the cracks and may need some help. And they may be the least obvious, because they may have jobs or have what may look to be other means of support and yet can't quite get there from here.
Right.
What was this like for you, Melinda, as a personal experience, to have people sort of rally around?
Oh, it was actually very amazing. It's been almost 3 years, and the different fundraisers and tragedies that the last year, I think Truckee has really been bombarded.
Yes.
And
That's very true.
It seems like the community and the merchants downtown and our local resorts and businesses really help, and they really are so generous, and they're constantly giving.
Yeah.
And it is amazing, but it's very heartwarming, and it definitely, especially this time of the season, makes you feel very happy and very proud to be in Truckee. And we have a very strong community.
We do. We have what I think is the best place to live, bar none.
I agree.
Bar none. Melinda, it's been a singular pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. And again, more information on Helping Hand can be obtained through contacting the Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation, or you can contact Melinda Bauman at home.
And my phone number is 587-8722.
Okay, there we have it. Melinda, thank you. I wish you and your family a very happy holiday season.
Thank you. You too.
Stay tuned. Coming up next, we'll have Patty Johnson from Truckee Community Christmas. And get out your pen and paper, because we've got some contact numbers coming up at the next break. You'll get some information on how to make donations this holiday season. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's our annual holiday show, and in this segment, Ted and I get to interview Patty Johnson. Patty, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
Patty, this is your 4th year running, and you're here talking about Truckee Community Christmas?
Correct.
Well, we've done this for several years. I'd like to back up a little bit, and let's talk about what Truckee Community Christmas is, how it got started.
Truckee Community Christmas got started about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was an offshoot of Community Care, which at that time, prior to 4 years, had been giving out food baskets, and Seroptimus had been giving out toys. We realized that there were a lot of entities in the community that were doing an awful lot of work, and we were concerned that people were duplicating efforts, or perhaps duplicating donations, and some families were getting double and some families were not getting anything. And so through Joan Hartwell's efforts, we formed an organization basically to act as an umbrella organization to enable us to sort of coordinate the efforts of all of the volunteer entities in the community to make sure that things aren't getting doubled up on, and to try to reach as many people as we possibly can.
Do these entities, excuse me, but do they all remain still autonomous, their own entity tied through some central organization?
Do. For example, Seroptimus does the toys, Rotary does Adopt a Family, The Sierra Board of Realtors does a food drive. 7-Eleven also does a Christmas Angel Network where they do a toy drive as well. So yes, they all remain separate, but they coordinate their efforts through us.
So you get to be the umbrella organization for all of these different drives that go on.
Yeah.
Well, there's no shortage of families who could use some help this holiday season. What kinds of, you mentioned some of the drives. You've got the Tahoe Sierra Board of Realtors has a food drive.
Right, they have a food drive that started, I believe, on Thanksgiving Day. There should be food barrels all over the community, banks, stores. I believe Truckee Elementary is also going to have a food barrel this year, so people can drop in non-perishable food. If anyone has something like turkeys that they want to donate, they should coordinate that through Joan Hartwell. But the food barrels are basically looking for non-perishable food.
So that would be canned foods, boxed foods, anything,
Pastas, soups. We do take care of seniors in need as well, and so any instant type foods work really well for them. Something that's really easy for them to make works really well.
How do you get the word out? Obviously, you're on the show for that purpose, but other than this medium, what other avenues do you pursue to get the word out to
Well, this year we have to give a great big thank you to the Sierra Sun because they've done a tremendous job on advertising what it is we do and a tremendous job of publicity. In terms of determining, who are the recipients of what it is we do, we depend exclusively on agencies, churches, the schools, anyone who has an ability to identify people who might be needy. And we don't use the same criteria as a social services agency might use. So we pretty much leave it up to them to tell us who's needy, and that can be different from year to year.
So the criteria is not really set in stone, is
No.
that what you're saying? So it's subjective to some
It is
extent?
subjective to some extent. And it can be, someone can be having a bad year one year and really have some need, whereas other years they're fine.
Patty, how big is the need in the community? How many families are you seeing that are coming forward and saying,
Typically, we have about 200 households that we help, and that includes the adopt-a-families, and that includes the seniors as well. It varies a bit from year to year, and one of our big efforts is we're not sure we're reaching everyone. And so an opportunity to be on a show like this, or what the Sierra Sun has done for us, has given us a little bit of a chance of maybe reaching some more people who might get lost in the cracks.
That's great. So if people wanted to get a hold of Patty, how would they do that?
They can call me at my office. It's 587-7715, or they can call Joan Hartwell, and I have to use a cheat sheet. It's 587-7945.
So we'll be repeating those numbers throughout the show.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that in a little bit. I have another question. We have a lot of families that are Hispanic in our area. Do we have a bilingual link to your organization?
You bet. All of our application forms are printed in English on one side and in Spanish on the other side. And so any of the agencies that are identifying families in need can use the appropriate side of the form and give it to the family to send in to us.
Good. Well, I'd like to make a donation. I have this hat here.
We'll take it.
Okay.
Patty, I think we're going to make sure that Ted wears that hat at least one more time on the show.
I think that's very appropriate.
I think after all,
that's an elf hat, which is intended for a smaller
or elf-minded.
I think you got the large size elf hat, which is perfect for you.
After all, if the shoe
fits well, if the hat fits well.
Let's talk a little bit about the Adopt-a-Senior, because that's at least new to me, if not new in the community.
Right. Last year, I think, we've done it for 2 years, but last year is the first year that we really kind of were emphasizing that. It's not like Adopt-a-Family. With Adopt-a-Family, you are to provide a meal and gifts and that sort of thing for a family. It's basically identifying a particular gift that a senior would like, and that's coordinated through Connie Lentz, and she helps, works with us to figure out what that person would like, and then if you adopt a senior, then you're responsible for trying to find that item and getting it to them. Last year we had 25 seniors that we also gave food baskets to, as well as little gifts. So if people are interested in dropping gifts for seniors in our toy barrels, that works for us. We can usually figure out what's intended for seniors and what's intended for the kids.
You know, I think when people think about the community drives, they think about dropping toys off for kids, but there are really so many other needy groups, families, seniors in our community, that it's good to think outside of just buying a toy and dropping it in a box.
Well, and this year we have more seniors than we did last year. I think it's double the number that we had last year that have signed up and are interested in being adopted.
Wow.
What would be a typical gift that you've seen in the past for a senior, just to give our folks at home an idea?
It varies a lot. I mean, a lot of the things we do are things like gloves and slippers and that type of thing. You know, most of the seniors are interested in more practical items. We've done, for some of the women, where you do shampoos and bath items and stuff like that, something where they can pamper themselves and not something they would ordinarily buy themselves. But generally, it's the practical items that they're interested in.
And speaking of practical items, one of the drives that goes on this time of year is the coat drive.
Yes. That's put on by sponsored by Church of the Mountains, and we're seeking warm coats that are used, but we'd like them to be clean and in good condition, no holes or that type of thing, but they don't have to be absolutely perfect. I believe Church of the Mountains has a drop box at Church of the Mountains, but Virginia Niddle is the person to contact, and that'll scroll on the screen later.
Where is Church of the Mountains located?
Across from the rec department, downtown Truckee.
On Church Street.
On Church Street.
How appropriate. I have a question. What boundaries do you operate within? Is that something that's been set in stone? Or
we serve the greater Truckee area. We don't serve Kings Beach or Tahoe City. There are other organizations that take care of those areas. So we kind of interpret Truckee a little bit loosely. If there's, someone out in Russell Valley is part of Truckee. But yeah, it's just basically Truckee is what we take care of.
Okay. We will be coming back in just a minute with more information from Patty. Again, keep that paper and pen handy. We've got some numbers coming up. Ted's got his, and that's a good thing. We'll be right back with Patty Johnson talking about Truckee Community Christmas. Stay tuned.
Hi, and welcome back to Truckee Talks. I'm Ted Owens, and we're with Maya Schneider and Patty Johnson. We're talking about some of the organizations in our community to assist those less fortunate in our community with Christmas festivities. Welcome back. Patty, if you would, could you tell us a little bit more about the Adopt a Family program?
Yeah, the Adopt a Family this year is sponsored by Rotary, and Patty and Ron Florian are coordinating it. So it's a little bit different. People aren't going to be able to go and pick up their coupons or their cards at Safeway as they've done in the past. They'll have to call Patty Florian in order to get the information on the families. But basically what it entails is it's a monetary commitment. The idea is that you're to provide a holiday meal for a family, and someone should interact with that family and find out what it is they want for their holiday meal, and then at least one or two gifts for each member of the family. And we ask that people in that instance provide new gifts and really try to find out from the family what it is they want. There are 35 families currently targeted. We try to choose the families that people have given information that are particularly needy. And it again, year to year. So
How has it worked out in the past? Do you have any interesting stories?
It's always really, really neat. We try to respect people's privacy, so if it's a group that's adopting a family, we try to target one spokesperson to go and interact with the family. But it's really a wonderful thing. That I don't have any particular interesting stories.
Have you had any repeat adoptions?
I'm sure there have been.
Well, Ted, if you quit signing up, we wouldn't have these repeat adoptions.
But the families are always really, really happy to have the assistance, and they're really just really sweet.
I've participated in that before and brought a whole meal and toys with a friend of mine to a family, and you couldn't help but cry during the whole thing. It's just wonderful the way people are so grateful, and it really makes their holiday.
It really is a neat program.
Wonderful.
What about the wrapping party? You know, one thing I get real excited about this time of year is a chore to most people, but I really enjoy is wrapping the presents. And I know that you sponsor a big wrapping day.
Right. The Seroptimus toy drive ends on Friday the 17th, at which point we sort the gifts by age appropriateness and by gender, and then we also wrap them all. And we encourage the community to get involved. The more people that show up, the faster the task goes. That's done at the high school in the cafeteria. It'll be Friday the 17th from 3 till 7 p.m. and then Saturday from 9 till whenever they're done, probably around 2. We ask people bring their own scissors. Scissors is something we're always short of, and apparently this year we're short of ribbon for wrapping the gifts, so if people want to either bring ribbon to the wrapping party or if they want to drop the ribbon in the toy barrels, that would be really great.
Oh, that's a good idea. So if you're dropping off a present, you can drop off some wrapping paper or ribbons as well.
Exactly.
And the wrapping party again, Friday the 17th from 3 to 7?
Correct.
At the high school, and Saturday the 18th from 9 until
whenever
the
it's
last
done.
present's wrapped. So the more people we can get out there, the better. You're going to come help wrap?
I actually have been ridiculed for many years by members of my family for using excessive amounts of tape.
And he has deep psychological wounds from this, too,
I
can
do.
tell.
I don't even need to put my name on it. They know where it's from.
Well, and the wrapping party is actually a really good opportunity for children to get involved. We've had Boy Scout groups and Girl Scout groups. We've had families that come in and bring their children so that they can have an opportunity to give something back to the community as well. And it's a neat opportunity for them to do something without, running into people who might be schoolmates.
There you go.
And protecting their privacy a little bit.
Okay.
We just have a few minutes left, and I have a couple more questions to ask of Patty. Patty, I know that there's the 7-Elevens here in town work in conjunction with Salvation Army on the Christmas Angels. What is that?
I may not have this 100% correct, but what
Okay.
I believe they do is they have a tree with a tag on the tree, and there's a child that's anonymously identified on that tree by age and sex, and you pick out a gift that's on the list that child would want, and then you bring that back into 7-Eleven,
So-
and it gets routed in to the appropriate child.
The two 7-Elevens here in is out there, David.
I believe it's just the 7-Eleven on Donner Pass Road.
Okay, all right. And then I had another one too, the food gift certificate program. Is that something different from Adopt a Family? And
Yes, it is. What we do with the families that aren't adopted is they get gifts for the children and their families, and that can vary a lot depending on what people are donating and what age they're donating for that year.
Mm-hmm.
They also get typically a bag of groceries, or if it's a large family, they get a box of groceries. And then they get food vouchers to either Safeway or now Albertsons, so that they can go in and buy the non-perishable items. And the amount that is in the food vouchers depends on how much people have donated to Community Christmas on any given year. Last year we were able to, we raised $9,000, and we used some of that to supplement gifts and food, and the rest went out in food vouchers.
now, we covered a lot of information so far in today's show, and I'm sure people will have a lot of questions. They can contact Truckee Community Christmas.
Correct.
And you've been in the Sierra Sun, so that's one place to look, as
Exactly.
well as the numbers we've scrolled here. Ted, can you remember all the different things we can donate this holiday season?
No, but why don't you?
Well, this is a test, but if you had your thinking cap on, you could probably remember that we had the warm coat drive from Church of the Mountains, we had the Adopt a Senior program, Adopt a Family program, we had the wrapping party,
And I could give the hat. I could donate the hat.
You can
and you can
the hat.
donate the warm
I'm trying
hat.
to donate the hat.
You can donate the hat.
It's not working.
He just can't shake this hat, and by golly, it's the price you pay, folks. You have to understand, for the glamour that goes along with being on Truckee Talks, you should occasionally break loose, have a little
Yeah,
fun.
loosen up a little bit. Thank you.
Patty, it's been a singular pleasure once again have you back on the show. It's just great what you do, and it's a good time to plug Joan Hartwell and congratulate her
Yes.
for being Seroptimus Woman of the Year. That was a tremendous accomplishment from a woman who has done a tremendous amount of work in this community. So, Joan, congratulations. Ted?
Patty, I enjoyed meeting you very much.
It's my
and I
pleasure.
think there's some other organizations out in this community that probably should speak with you shortly.
Well, from all of us here at Channel 6 and Truckee Tahoe Community Television, we wish you and your family a happy holiday season, and no matter what you do to celebrate the holidays, have a safe, happy, warm, and loving holiday season. Thank you, and we'll see you
Merry
next
Christmas,
year.
everybody.